What up, everybody? Good morning and a happy Monday to you all. Could we have a little delayed victory Monday there? What up, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in, joining us wherever, however you're joining us here this morning. We've got, well, it's been a few days here, so kind of getting back in the swing of things. Hopefully, all had a good Thanksgiving holiday, Thanksgiving break. Hunters out there, hopefully you had some luck in the woods. Best of luck to everybody who's going to be going out for muzzle loading season and such. But if you were one of the lucky ones to have some luck out there, don't forget to share your photos. Hit us up at our website, sportstalk1051.com. Click on that outdoors tab over there and submit those photos so we can put them up on the Tilda Gun photo gallery. But nonetheless, hopefully you all had a fantastic weekend and you're ready to hit up a brand new work week here. What do we got on the good old game plan for us this morning? We're going to talk some Packers. Packers. I know it was a few days ago, but coming off their win against the Dolphins, different week, shorter week again because they're back at it on Thursday, going up against the Detroit Lions. So yesterday was kind of like a Wednesday for the Packers in terms of practice. They returned to practice yesterday to prepare for their upcoming Thursday night game against the Detroit Lions. Some good news in the health department for the Packers potentially. Romeo Dobbs practiced. Matt LaFleur did say he's still in the concussion protocol, but obviously has advanced to the stage where he could be doing some practicing. And Jair Alexander also practiced a little bit yesterday. So obviously that bodes well. That's a good direction. Would love those two guys back, especially for this game against Detroit here. But we'll see how today and tomorrow goes. Today and tomorrow will be the big ones in terms of the practice report for the green and gold. So plenty to talk about here and kind of recap and take a look back here for this Packers team as we're kind of, if you think about it, this may one, two, three, four. This Detroit game, this Thursday game will be the final game of the third quarter of this season for the Packers. Coming off their bye week, escaping Chicago with a win, taking down San Francisco, taking down Miami, and then this Detroit game, and then you only got 4 more games after this, you guys. 4 more regular season games after this Detroit one. That's it. Then we're entering the final quarter of this regular season. We talked about this stretch run for the Pack coming off their bye, going up against Chicago, taking on San Francisco, taking on Miami, Detroit, at Seattle. New Orleans is even playing better. Tough stretch, Minnesota after that. I mean, this is a tough second half of the season. And so far, like the Packers are obviously passing us. They're picking up W's here, and they're improving in so many other areas too. Packers top 10 in rushing defense now after their last couple games here where they slowed down the rushing attack from the San Francisco 49ers. McCaffrey, 11 carries, 31 yards in that game against the Dolphins. Packers did a fantastic job of slowing down the run, stopping the run. A lot of that, though, too, does help with the offense going out there, having those long, extended drives, 6, 7, 7-minute drives where you're coming away with touchdowns and you're putting your opponent in a hole early. You want to take them out of obvious running, or you want to take a team out of running the football. You have long, extended drives that come away with touchdowns, and you put your teams in holes early. And right now, because of that, the Packers have a top 10 rushing defense in the league, and it's going to be tested coming up this Thursday, going up against the Detroit Lions, as we know is one of the better rushing teams in the league with their two-headed monster over there with Gibbs and Montgomery. In fact, Detroit is the 4th best rushing attack. Green Bay 5th best rushing team in the league. So you got a big time matchup coming up Thursday night football in Detroit. Plenty of green and gold to talk about here this morning. So we'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. Badger football falling on Friday to the Gophers. Paul Bunyan's axe is back in Minnesota, and now begins a very intriguing offseason for this Badger football team. I mean, who's going to be the new offensive coordinator? You already got some players entering the transfer portal. How many more players are going to be entering the transfer portal? Are there going to be any more assistant coaching moves and such? But this is I think a make or break offseason for Luke Fickell. He's got to nail this offseason, and schedule doesn't get any easier next year for the Badgers. Wins are going to be kind of hard to come by next year for the Badgers too, based off their schedule. But man, you want to talk about an incredibly important offseason to secure jobs, but also just to gain some momentum within a program. But definitely subpar, failure, whatever you want to call it, of a season for this Badger football team. And it ends with Minnesota taking Paul Bunyan's axe. Yikes. On the flip side, though, Badger men's basketball, they are still undefeated this season. Picking up a win against Chicago State. They've got Michigan coming up tomorrow. And then the big game this weekend coming up against Marquette. So Badger men's basketball remaining undefeated, off to a fantastic start, 11-0. You've got the Badger volleyball team. They earned a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament for the 12th straight season and 28th time in program history. Wisconsin volleyball has earned a bid to the NCAA tournament and were selected as the 2 seed in the Nebraska regional. So there you have it. They are going to play Fairfield. The Badgers selected as a 2 seed. Yep, are set to play Fairfield and host the first and second round matches on Thursday and Friday. So postseason play coming for this Badger volleyball team too. We got plenty of Badger chat throughout this morning and tomorrow when we catch up with Mr. RJ Cardinal. But we'll definitely throw some Badger stuff into this. Also, Bucks. We talk about a team that is playing well as of late. This Milwaukee Bucks team. Oh, they're playing darn well, and they've got they got the Pistons coming up tomorrow for the NBA Cup group stage over there. But Bucks this past Saturday taking down the Hornets 125 to 119, picking up that win. So after an incredibly slow start to their season and questions and what the heck's and all that, Bucks now playing a lot better, maybe to that expectation that we all kind of thought for this team at this point. Giannis is just doing Giannis things out there, continuing to climb the legacy charts, the all-time charts there. But right now, the Bucks are your 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, 10-9, so they're above 500. All right, we made it above 500. 1.5 back from the Knicks for the 4 spot. They are 7 games back from Cleveland. What's wrong with the Cavs? They now have 3 losses on this season, but 7 back from the Cleveland Cavs for the top spot in the Eastern Conference. But Bucks definitely playing a whole lot better as of late, and maybe just finally starting to figure things out, getting a little bit of a groove, getting comfortable within the system and such. But currently riding a 6-game winning streak. The Milwaukee Bucks are doing. We're going to talk with JC, Justice Cleveland, sports director extraordinaire. He'll be joining us starting a little past 7 o'clock. We know we got some prep stuff going on. The high school basketball seasons and such getting underway. So we'll do a little local sports roundup with Mr. JC in the EC. It is Monday, so I want I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Okay? I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Give me your picks for that best ones. Make it on the air, okay? Fill in the blanks. I'm not saying blank, but I'm just saying blank. Fill it in. Make it appropriate. Best ones. I'll read off on the air. All right. Start hitting me up with those texts and such on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. 715-830-1912. Or you can comment on the video streams. We're up on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram. all that good stuff. Hit me up on the socials at DANKASBR, Facebook.com/Casper Sports over there too, or on the Sports Talk Twitter pages and Facebook pages. So let's get things rolling, though, shall we? Let's get the lead off coming up here. Let's talk a little green and gold. No, Thursday was a few days ago, but we're already on to Detroit here as kickoff for that game is just a couple days away here. But let's give some flowers out to the green and gold for a couple players here who have been doing a fantastic job. Give them a little bit of credit here in these last couple games here. But things in the NFC North still tight, still at the top, even with the Packers playing well and winning their last three. Minnesota, Detroit continue to play well. Minnesota eking out a victory yesterday against the Cardinals too. So I think it's safe to say that Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay are all going to make the postseason this year. It just depends on where they're all going to land at this point in time. So, but let's talk some Packers. Talk about the run defense right now. Talk about some of the other parts of this team that maybe we've seen some nice improvements from. How about 5 sacks going up against Tua and the Miami Dolphins on Thursday? Perhaps even Kenny Clark's best game of the season so far. Good to see old 97 getting some pressure, even getting a sack in that game too. So some positives, definitely. Let's kind of revisit it while also looking ahead to this game against the Lions on Thursday. So we'll take our quick first break here this morning and get things rolling on the leadoff. Join in on the convo. Hit me up, 715-830-1912. Quick break. We'll be back after these short words. 3 weeks from today, December 23rd, it's our annual Festivus program, and we're going to be over at our good friends, the VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue, to do our program. Brandon and myself will be doing our annual Festivus program. So stop on by. We've got some more details to come. We might even have some feats of strength. Got to find a metal pole. Got to find the official metal pole. I've got a backup. May have to become the official one, but we'll get the metal pole and all that there too. But put it on the calendar, December 23rd. Before we're going to be out for about a week or so with a little Christmas vacay and such. But be over at the VFW Post 305, December 23rd. Hard to believe that's 3 weeks already. 3 weeks from today. So big thanks to our good friends from VFW Post 305 for letting us post up and do the program over there. Should be a lot of fun. Can't wait for it. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning, shall we? Pick it up with or start it off, I should say, with a little lead off here. Packers. I want to start off chatting a little Packers because obviously we wasn't in Friday to talk about or to have a little victory Friday. So kind of an extended version of a little victory Monday, but also keeping an eye on, taking a look at Detroit because it's coming up here in just a couple days. Back-to-back Thursday games here. So, but really, when we look at with Green Bay and just kind of some reactions from the game now that we've had a few more days to let it marinate, to kind of let it settle in and such against Miami. Boy, I've been really these last couple weeks against San Francisco, and I get it. San Francisco was banged up. I totally understand. I get that. Okay, I get it. But you add in what they've done against Miami. I really like the way Green Bay has been playing these last couple weeks, offensively and defensively here. It's just been, first of all, shout out to Jeff Hafley again for the game plan, for the defensive game plan against Miami. And I think a lot of us, when we were looking at keys to victory, key matchups and all that, and one thing I think that was fair that was maybe going to be a little bit of a concern was like, okay, no Jair in this game. How is this Packers secondary going to be able to maybe slow down Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle and such? And, if you box score scout it, yes, Tyreek Hill had 6 catches, 9 targets for 83 yards. Jalen Waddle, 4 catches, 53 yards. Packers had trouble slowing down Smith, the tight end, who had 10 catches for $113 on 11 targets, but he has kind of had a little bit of a resurrection year this year, if you will. So, but nonetheless, given that you had a secondary that didn't have your top corner in Jair, and going up against a quarterback who is pretty darn efficient, Tua, yes, threw over 350 yards. In fact, had 365 yards over there. But you kept them out of the end zone. You didn't let it get into a shootout. You didn't let them, have those big plays. It's kind of like Jason Garrett was saying on the telecast, right? Not Miami is such a big play team. Last year we saw that, stacking up the yardages, big plays down the field, explosive plays. And Green Bay didn't do that. They didn't allow them to do that. They stopped the run too. And I also think it goes hand in hand with how the Packers are playing offensively. When you're having success stopping the run, I also think it factors in with what you're doing on offense. And what I mean by that, Packers, they're taking, you open up the game with the touchdown and you took, all that time off the clock in the first quarter. Help that you got a turnover, then you're able to, get it back. It's, to get that over there. But not the first drive, but a couple drives later, it was with Josh Jacobs when they had, 12 plays, 76 yards, just under 7 minutes. Just under 7 minutes. They're scoring drives here when it's not short fields coming off of turnovers. They're going out there and having 6-7 minute drives and coming with touchdowns. Their red zone offense has been so much better. so much better instead of just trying to settle for field goals. They are getting better once they get inside the 20 and coming with touchdowns. A lot of that has to do with Josh Jacobs. But back to the defensive side here with this game against Miami too. Shout out 5 sacks against Tua. I think that surprised a lot of people that they were able to get after him. He's not the most mobile quarterback, especially given his concussion history. He's not going to be a guy that's going to tuck it and run, but he's kind of like a little maybe Aaron Rodgers-esque back in his prime, where he's mobile when he has to be, but he's not going to be a Lamar Jackson or anything like that. But for the Packers to go out there and get 5 sacks on the man, including Lucas Van Ness, who I think has been a guy that has been playing better as of late. Brenton Cox Jr. picking up another sack. Kenny Clark picking up a sack in this game. I think that was one of Kenny Clark's best games, if not his best game this year, which I know the sample size isn't that huge. It isn't that big. But he was able to generate some pressure up the middle too. And how about Isaiah McDuffie stepping up in a big-time role with no Edgerrin Cooper, and the man goes out there with 10 tackles, 7 solo tackles, and a tackle for a loss. But his counterpart there too is starting to maybe, hopefully, don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but hopefully maybe starting to stack some success a little bit, because Quay Walker, I thought, had another solid game going up against Miami. Coming off that game against San Francisco where we were singing his praises, saying, all right, that was a fantastic game by Quay Walker. I think he backed it up and had another solid game against Miami, putting together back-to-back games where he has been pretty darn solid, been pretty darn good. Can he continue to do this? Is he starting to settle in? I was reading a little bit over the weekend, some of the quotes from him and such, and it's something that we've kind of threw out there as like, is this kind of the stuff that's going on with Quay Walker? But he kind of alluded to it. He's like, just gotta stop thinking so much and just going out there and play. It's one of those where if you're thinking too much, it kind of maybe hinders you a little bit. But no doubt, he has been putting together, in these last 2 games at least, back-to-back performances of solid linebacking play. I don't know if it's if it is he's just finally figured it out, or is it just everybody's kind of starting to finally get a little bit more comfortable within the system, the new system of Jeff Hafley. We had Kenny Clark having that solid game against Miami too. Is it everything we're just coming together? I think Lucas Van Ness again is a guy that Van Ness been playing a little bit better in the last couple weeks. Is everything just starting to come together where everybody's a little bit more comfortable? Where everybody's starting to figure it out within the system. I saw somebody put this out there too. Is when you look at Lucas Van Ness, when he was coming out of Iowa, when he was drafted, he wasn't a starter. Clay Matthews was kind of in a similar boat when Packers drafted him in the first round. But, in his first year at Green Bay, he was asked to change a little bit and rush standing up. And then after 1 year, it's like, go back to putting your hand in the dirt here. So were we a little harsh? And I'm not saying, Lucas Van Ness all of a sudden has figured it out. Now he's going to be a dominant pass rusher. But were we as fans maybe a little bit harsh? Like, okay, we drafted this guy. He was a little bit raw. He was, not a ton of experience on him, but you could see the ability. You could see the raw athletic ability there and what he could be. We asked him to do something in his rookie year, then asked him to completely change it in the next year. Were we a little impatient wanting that success? I don't know. I think it's fair to say, though, too, to counter that, I think it's fair to say, to criticize some of the play because he just wasn't playing that well. And I hope now it's just finally starting to click for everybody on this defensive side. The people that we have pointed the finger at in terms of we got to see better play from. We want to see better play, more consistent play from Lucas Van Ness. He's been playing a little bit better. We want to see more better play from Quay Walker. He's been playing better in these last couple games. Kenny Clark's coming off of a nice game. You look at the total pressures versus Miami. Quay Walker had 4 pressures. Rashawn Gary, 4 pressures. Lucas Van Ness, 3 pressures. These are the guys that Devontae Wyatt also had 3 pressures. I mean, these are the guys that we've wanted to see step up and play better defensively, and we're seeing that. And maybe it, Jeff Hafley too has kind of found the role or what works best for Quay Walker. Putting him in a position to affect games, putting him in a position to succeed, because if he succeeds, chances are the defense overall is going to succeed. But we got a huge test. This defense is going to have a huge test going into Detroit with this offense. Will these guys be able to step up and continue to stack success? Get some pressure off of Jared Goff? Can this secondary slow down the passing attack? Can they slow down the two-headed monster running attack of Gibbs and Montgomery? I mean, the defense overall has done very nice job, very solid jobs against San Francisco. Yes, no Brock Purdy and such. I understand it. But then, Miami coming in to Lambeau Field, whether it was warm weather team going up against cold weather. I know Miami said all week they wanted to kill that narrative. They didn't kill the narrative. In fact, the narrative has just probably gotten a little bit more factual at this point. But this is a huge test on Thursday for this defense. And I think I almost feel like if Green Bay goes into this one and the defense plays incredibly well against Detroit and the offense continues to play incredibly well, let's say Green Bay goes in and wins it, maybe something similar to last year's Thanksgiving game. That is going to be, I think, a statement game, a statement win for this Green Bay team, because you're watching the game last night with Philly taking down Baltimore. And, you've got a narrative that's starting to go out there, because a couple weeks ago, the narrative was, who's the team that could take down the Detroit Lions? If there was a team that could compete with the Detroit Lions. Green Bay was thrown in there, Philly was thrown in there and such. Now that you got a narrative that's kind of, at least on a national sense, starting to spew up here a little bit, well, it's like, it's either Detroit or Philly coming out of the NFC. Or, the real Super Bowl caliber teams are Detroit, Kansas City, Philly, Buffalo, and then they'll still throw in Baltimore. But you don't see Green Bay anywhere. Green Bay goes in there and beats Detroit on Thursday night. That's a statement game to the rest of the league. And that's a statement game, I think, to this team themselves. Like, hey, we are legit. We are a championship caliber team. We can go in there and win this game, win this Super Bowl. We can go and be the team that takes down Detroit. I kind of like maybe Green Bay's flying a little bit under. I don't know if I would say they're flying under the radar too much, but they're still third in their division. They're 9-3 and they're third in their division. Almost any other division that would be tops. That's just how competitive this thing is, and I'm glad it's competitive. I really am, because I think it's good for the division. I think it's good for the rivalries between these teams, but also it's like, all right, can't slack off. It puts an importance on every single game, even if it's not a division game, going up against your rivals of Minnesota or such. It puts an importance on every game, because you don't want to fall too far behind if you want to stay in position to win the division or to be, one of the top wildcard teams over there. Offensively too, and there's also a narrative that I've seen the last couple weeks. And I get it's on socials and such, but I don't quite understand it for the most part here. But there's this narrative, or at least, and I don't think it's the majority. I don't think it is, at least, but it's out there. There's this talk that, does Green Bay have to throw the ball more? Do they have to, does Jordan Love have to go out there and throw the ball more? Do they have to start, lighting it up in the passing chart? I mean, Jordan Love against Miami, 21 of 28 for 274. I don't just go out there to throw just because you've got these receiving options, because you have these weapons of a Watson and a Jaden Reed and a Romeo when he's healthy and a Tucker Kraft who had a nice game against Miami. Just because you have those weapons, I don't want to get in the mindset of like, okay, we got all these guys. That means we've got to throw it 40 times a game or 35 times a game. I love the game plans that we have been seeing in these last couple weeks. Super focused on running the football with Josh Jacobs. This is what I'm enjoying to see. I'm enjoying this game plan, these offensive game plans that we have been seeing from Green Bay. I think we've become so used to, or at least a lot of fans, we've become so used to like explosive passing plays, right? Explosive down the field throws, whether it's the Rodgers era or even Love last year for a little bit too. But the way that Matt LaFleur, I think, has called some of these games and establishing the run and focusing on the run and playing physical football on the offensive side, I think has shown a growth to LaFleur as a play caller, but has shown a growth to this team overall too. Again, solid offensive play can turn into or correlates to solid defensive play. Having those 7-minute drives, keeping the opponent's the opposing offense on the sideline, especially an explosive offense like Miami when they're all healthy. Playing solid football, 7 minutes that come into drives, plays into the hands, helps out your defense there a little bit too. Takes Miami a little bit out of their game plan, if you will. But able to control time of possessions. Able to control that. And with the improved red zone play now, I just think Matt LaFleur is doing a fantastic job as a play caller here. And I'll go back to weeks 2 and 3 when we didn't have Jordan Love and Malik Willis was the quarterback. What was one thing that we kind of said a lot? It's like, man, creative running game, really focusing on handing the ball off and running it with Jacobs. Man, I hope this happens, or we continue to do some of this stuff when Jordan Love comes back. And I think we're seeing that. And the thing is, like in this game against Miami, did Josh Jacobs have a fantastic day on the ground rushing the football? No. 19 carries, 43 yards. Give Miami credit. They slowed him down. They stopped him. But the difference is with this team too is like if they got to get into a passing game, I'm comfortable with it. I'm more than comfortable. I'm confident in it. They've got the dudes. They've got the horses. They've got the weapons to be in a passing game if they want to. And that's what they did. 21 to 28, 274. Tucker Kraft, 6 catches, 78 yards. But I love the fact that they are still focused on let's set up the run. Let's focus on running the football. Winning those possessions, winning the time of possession, and just kind of playing some physical football. Playing that physical football. If you're having success running the football, especially this part of the season now too, late in the season here, if you're having that success, it's going to make your passing game so much simpler when you incorporate that play action. It's basic. It's science. Shout out Anchorman for that quote. But I've been seeing that a little bit on the socials. And again, I don't think it's the majority. At least I hope it's not the majority. But you got a contingent of people like, man, I wish Green Bay would just throw it more. Wish they'd get the receivers involved more. I've got no problem right now with the offensive game plan, with the philosophy of like, let's run the football. Let's run the football. Let's control the clock. And I think if you have success in that red zone, you can continue with this offensive game plan of running the football and focusing on running the football. You continue to have that success in the red zone. And the other part too, where you can continue to have success running the football is, limiting your stupid penalties. They've been doing a little bit better of a job, and there was still a couple, false starts and such, and Matt LaFleur talked about it yesterday. still annoyed by it. I mean, don't put your team in a position where, because we saw it earlier in the season, right? Josh Jacobs explodes for some big runs. They pick up some big downs or first downs or even scores. Nope, it's called back from a holding penalty, offensive line holding penalty or whatever. Limit those penalties. And we've been seeing them doing a little bit better of a job. It's not completely clean, but a little bit better of a job. But I love the fact what they're doing with this mindset of the offense. We're just going to hand it off and we're going to play some power football mixed in with some explosive passing plays too if we have to. I think he's in a groove. And Matt LaFleur, I thought last year was in a groove in the second half. Always like just kind of one step ahead of the opposing defensive coordinator. Starting to get those vibes again here a little bit. Now we'll see how this Detroit game goes. Again, I think this is a potentially a statement game for Green Bay, a statement game for themselves, a statement game for the rest of the league, for everybody else out there, that it's not just Detroit, or maybe not just Detroit and Philly. That Green Bay has a chance to put themselves in that conversation of like, hey, we are, in fact, one of the best teams, not just in the NFC, but in the entire league. Maybe third in the division. But this potentially could be a big-time statement game for Green Bay. And maybe for this team, too, for themselves, it's a statement game. Like, yeah, this proves it that we can be a championship caliber team, that we can go and compete for a championship. And I hope these guys go into Detroit and continue to play that physical football that they've been these last couple weeks, and not digging themselves into an early hole like they did against Detroit in their first matchup that kind of took them out of what they want to do game plan wise. Detroit, 17 points in the second quarter. That turnover, that interception, that pick six before the half completely turned the game around. Right? I mean, even in that game, Jacobs had 13 carries for 95 yards. Jared Goff was 18 of 22 for $145. He was getting the ball out quick, though. Remember, we went through the passing chart. It was like he had like 2 throws that were longer than 10 yards, and everything was across the middle. Not a lot of sideline throws. Utilizing the middle of the field, getting the ball in the hands of his playmakers like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had 7 catches in that game. What is Jeff Hafley? I think a big question heading into this game, and we're a couple days away from it yet. But if you're Jeff Hafley, it's like, okay, I'm looking at this because we talked about it after that Lions game. It was like, okay, teams might be trying to attack Green Bay by a shorter, quicker passing attack. And you look at Tua's numbers; they were any other day, those were great numbers that he put up against Green Bay. You'd be thinking, man, but he only scored 17 points. But how is Jeff Hafley and this defense going to try to slow down or try to get after Jared Goff? The pass rush, at least against Miami, was playing a little bit better. San Francisco too. Can they generate a pass rush against one of the best offensive lines in the entire league with Detroit? Can they slow down the two-headed running attack? Can this top 10 rushing defense slow down Gibbs and Montgomery? This is going to be a huge test for this defense. And it's a test the defense, I think, wants. For all the questions from individual players and such. Quay Walker, Kenny Clark, Lucas Van Ness. This is an opportunity for them on Thursday now to maybe quiet some of the doubters, at least for a little bit. But I also think a lot of that pressure is going to be on this Packers offense. I think if Jordan Love gets into a game where he's got to throw 40 sometimes, you don't want to be in that situation. I want a more balanced attack. In fact, I want maybe just a little bit more into the running game. If Green Bay can control that clock and have success in the red zone like they have the last couple of weeks, they got a shot. They got a really good shot to win this game. All right. Let's take a quick break. Join in on the convo, though, all right? Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912. What have you liked the most from what you have seen from your Packers these last couple games against the 49ers, against the Dolphins? What's really stood out to you? Still got some light flurries out there, and well, depending on I'm not quite sure how the road conditions are right now, but my truck's already covered up in snow. So I got to imagine maybe some slippery spots, but it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder. We are at that point in time of the season where we might have some school closings and delays. So you want to make sure you stay tuned to like our website at sportstalk1051.com, and you could click on the WEAU 13 News First Alert School Closings, brought to you by Hovland and our good friends from Service Master. So if you do wake up and it's like, oh man, I wonder if there's any delays or closings or anything like that, you can check it up at our website. Again, brought to you by Hovlands and also, we got the best holiday ever continues to roll on. Do want to mention today is the deadline. Today is the deadline to nominate a child to go Christmas shopping as part of our Backyard Dreams program. We did it last year. We're doing it again. We're going to be taking the kiddos to Fleet Farm again and doing some shopping at the toy aisles over there at Fleet Farm. So, but today is the deadline to nominate a child. So if you know of one, or you know, tell your friend or family member to nominate someone, get that in today. Just go to sportstalk1051.com or around the 715.com, and you can nominate that child to go Christmas shopping. Plus, you can check out other stuff that's available up there, contests like to win some tickets to some concerts and a bunch of other things going on out there. Calendar of events, with a lot of stuff going on now. That's we are in December. Some holiday events going on. We got Festival of Toys. That's going to be beginning starting tomorrow as well. So that's going to be going from December 3rd through the 6th. More details again up at aroundthe715.com. All right, we just see. Okay, this is going to be a little weird because apparently the clock's battery died in the studio. So I got to look at somewhere else here so I don't get cut off by the shot clock here this morning. But kind of asking, what is in these last couple of weeks against San Francisco, against Miami, what has maybe really stood out to you, or what have you really, what have you been most impressed about from the Packers in these last couple wins against San Francisco and against Miami? What is it? What has it been? Is there a certain player? Maybe you're saying Quay Walker. That'd be an easy one, right? Quay Walker, let's face it, for all the stuff that we have thrown at him, all the criticism, and I think it's been rightfully thrown at him, he has played better. Can he continue to do it? Because if he can, and if he can play at the level that he has been these last couple weeks, it takes the defense to another level. It takes that unit to another level. Hopefully, maybe a championship caliber level defense. But I think it's been 2 games. I think a lot of us, and I'll raise my hand to this too, I want to continue to see it. I don't want to see, the next couple games where it's back to what we've seen, for a big chunk of his young career. Want to see it continue to get better, continue to play at a high level. Maybe it's been the red zone offense. That's another one too that has gotten a whole lot better in these last couple of weeks. Red zone offense, no question about it, it's gotten better. They're coming away with touchdowns instead of settling for field goals. There's a few different things we can look at here. And there isn't a right or wrong answer in this. I'd throw those two in there for sure for my picks. I would throw in, I think, just the play calling and the game plans from the coordinators, from the play callers. I'm including Matt LaFleur in there. I'm including Jeff Hafley in there. Their game plans going up against their opponents, how they're attacking their opponents. It sure feels like it's not just like, this is what we're going to do, regardless of what this team does well or what they do poor. This is what we're going to do. It just feels like, specifically on the defensive side, they're game planning to their opponent. And I'm really liking what I see from this defense from Jeff Hafley, and I hope he sticks around for a few more years too. I know right now with Ohio State, with Ryan Day losing to Michigan again, You had some people out there having some fun. Could Jeff Hafley return to Ohio State? The thing is I don't think he's going back to that college game. He left that head coaching job at Boston College, and I get it, Boston College and Ohio State, not quite the same level, but he left that college game a lot because of transfer portals, NIL, and he talked about he just wants to coach football. I don't think you have to worry about that, Packers fans. But money can also talk, and I don't know if really he'd be at the top of the list for Ohio State. Anyways, some people are having some fun with that, but I don't see it happening. But definitely, I would say in these last couple of weeks, the things that have really stood out to me have been the improved play from Quay Walker, has been the improved offensive red zone offense, punching it in with touchdowns, and it's just been these game plans and how the defense and the offense, Packers defense and the Packers offense has game planned and how they've gone in and whether just how they've prepared for their opponents. I think it's been really good. And you could throw in Jordan Love too in these last couple of weeks and how he's played. Limiting the turnovers, right? There's still been a couple throws. There's no question. There's been a couple throws from Jordan Love. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What did you see there? Why did you throw that? There has been. Now, luckily, they haven't resulted into any turnovers because he hasn't thrown a pick in his last 2 games. But there's definitely been like, dude, the one that kind of just makes you like bunch up a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. But he has gotten better too, taking care of the football. All right, keep your picks coming. Hit us up with the text if you're not driving. If it's snowing, don't text me right now. Just wait till you stop and all that, okay? So we'll get to your messages a little bit later on here. We'll have more football talk throughout the morning. Badger football program, and I think entering an offseason that some of us, maybe a lot of us, have never really experienced in our lives for Badger football. Now I know maybe some of our listeners who have been around the Sun a little bit longer, kind of gone through this and such. But I think for maybe listeners around my age, maybe around your 40s, like I remember as a kid, I remember the Barry Alvarez. That's my first my first memory of Badger football was Barry Alvarez programs and such. But I think we're entering an offseason that is, at least as of recently, been something that we haven't really experienced. Yes, we've had coaching changes. We have coaches leaving and such, but you're talking about a program that got alum who are very vocal about their displeasures, player alums, displeasures about the program and where it's trending and such. It is a big-time offseason for Luke Fickell and his Badger football program. On the flip side, Badger basketball, 11-0 right now. Volleyball is a 2 seed in the tournament. Got other sports who are succeeding at that level. So we'll talk some Badgers. We got some Bucks chat on there. Plus, we'll get back to some more Packer talk too as we get set for this big game Thursday night against Detroit. We'll be back after these news updates. second hour on this kind of a snowy start to your Monday morning. Some light stuff out there, it looks like. Oh, it depends on where you're listening to us from. If you in the Eau Claire, Altoona area, and maybe taking the kiddos out to school first day back after the Thanksgiving break, maybe give it a little extra few minutes there when you take the kiddos out to school over there. But big thanks for tuning in and making us a part of your start to not only this Monday morning, but to the rest of this week here. JC in the EC also joining us here this morning. Don't think you'll be golfing anytime soon now. So
no, it's done.
Over with in the books.
We had a pretty good run of like basically a year without snow, if you think about it, till last year, but we had barely any snow. Yeah. So yeah, it might be a traditional winter this year. No,
we got to make up for it, right?
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I think so. It was going to hit us at some point.
Yep. Well, hey, you were at the game on Thanksgiving, going up against the Miami Dolphins and such. The one thing I wanted to ask you too was, what was the vibe like? Like, I just feel like these last couple weeks, this team it's a little bit, after that Chicago game escaping with a W. Yes, San Francisco was banged up. We get it, but a lot of people say they didn't play down to their competition, which they didn't.
Yeah.
Miami, I think a lot of people were worried about the speed, with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. This just seems like a team now is just maybe gaining some confidence. Quay Walker's played really well in these last couple weeks. Kenny Clark probably had his best game, maybe going up against Miami, getting a sack. This team getting 5 sacks against Tua. Or what was it that really stood out to you maybe in this game against Miami since you were there?
I think, I look at it, the preparation, the way they came out in that first half. I think it with these cold games like that, it depends. Whoever kind of steps on that gas first and is able to actually step on the gas, I think usually ends up coming out the victor. And I think we saw it in the first half. The Packers, both on offense and defense, and even special teams, seemed like they were really more adept, obviously, to a team from Miami to the cold. Second half, I think it's more the case where everybody starts getting cold.
Right.
And I think we saw them kind of slow down a little bit, but I look at a team that still, I don't think, has played their best game of the year. Would you love them to play it on Thursday? I think you would. But yeah, I think you're seeing a team that definitely has a lot more to give.
Right.
They just don't seem like they're right where they're winning, which is the best part about it. But they're a team that we were talking about this. I mean, like maybe a month ago, where it's like we still want to see them play that complete game. I mean, San Francisco maybe, but it still was a little bit of. Wasn't quite exactly what you want to see, but it'll be interesting to see what these next couple of games here. You got Detroit inside.
Yep.
I mean, they really haven't had these indoor games to kind of. It's been some, you had Detroit, a month ago.
Yep.
And that was bad weather. You have the Chicago game at Chicago.
Right.
San Francisco game was kind of wet, and it was and like so they haven't really had this speed track to go with. I want to see what they can do. Now, granted, Detroit's defense is a top-notch defense, but they got that. Then you're at Seattle. Seattle, you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
You could get that rainy, kind of foggy stuff, but probably not going to be like what was at Lambeau. And then, you got New Orleans back at home. Then at Minnesota, another dome team, and then Chicago. Right. So I think this team is one of those teams that's just going to be hitting their stride as we get towards the playoff, and that's really what you want to see. And I'm interested to see what they can do Thursday against the Lions. I think it's going to be a fun matchup.
I think, that's such a – is it too early? I don't think it's too early, but statement game. Like, I almost feel like so. for Green Bay, this could be a real statement game. San Francisco win, Miami win, and then you go to Detroit and pick up a win. Because, obviously, the narrative now is like it's Detroit and Philly, in the NFC. Those are the two teams that it's going to be between those two that comes out. Green Bay, all of a sudden, if they go into Detroit and pick up that win, that puts them in that conversation, I would think, at that point.
Well, I would think so, too. I mean, the way they've been playing the last couple of games, and, if you would be able to knock off the top team in your conference and then get back to a game back in the division,
right,
be huge. And, obviously, Minnesota's right there.
Right.
And then you got Minnesota in a couple of weeks. So, I think this is a really big game. And really, you go back to that Detroit game, the first one, bad weather. I'm not making excuses, but you had Jordan Love coming off of that groin injury, so you weren't even sure if he was going to start that game.
And that pick six right before the half really turned that whole game. You look at it, it's like 24-14 Well, I mean, going into the half, that kind of just derailed the whole game. 17 points in
really
the second quarter.
Yeah, that momentum flipped over to Detroit, and they were able to hold on to it in the second half. So, yeah, I mean, you got to not make those mistakes. And hopefully, for Jordan Love, he's got those, the one against the Chargers and then that one against the Lions where they were just,
or the
Rams, excuse me. I looked at Los Angeles and I didn't see the little
credit to you saying Los Angeles for the Chargers.
Normally I do say San Diego. So I was wrong on 3 different fronts there almost, but yeah, against the Rams and then the one against the Lions. So I like, he looked efficient in that game. That was a tough conditions to play too on Thursday. The wind was swirling. And I don't know if you could really tell it that much on TV, how much that wind was rocking around there at Lambeau, but it was, the flags would be moving at different directions on the top of the stadium because it was just a swirling day. So yeah, I mean, for them to come out, and that's what you want to play. I think they're built, this team, as much as I want to see them in a dome, they're also built to play in these bad conditions. With Josh Jacobs at running back, and like somebody like Tucker Kraft stepping out at that tight end position.
Yeah,
having those are the dirty weather guys right there that you want to have going as you get towards the end of the season.
You mentioned that too. I mean, it's the swirling wind there too. The confidence that we actually have in a kicker now too, Brandon McManus.
Yeah. I mean,
I get that 46-yarder, and in those conditions aren't probably the easiest thing in the world. Look at what's going on with Baltimore right now with Tucker. Holy moly!
You have a guy who's been the all-world kicker for the last decade, missing extra points.
Yeah,
and it's quick. We saw that. You go back to that year with Mason Crosby.
Yep,
where it can just go for a little bit. And I think with Tucker, you probably have the patience because he's got the track record. But yeah, like when he lined up for that 46-yarder, I remember saying, it's like, this is not an easy kick. Like in conditions like this ball could go either way, but he made it look easy. And that's kind of the nice thing when you have a kicker who makes it look easy. So I think that side of it, they made the right move and it's really paid off for them.
Absolutely. Big Worm had asked a question a little bit earlier. What are your thoughts on the absolute meltdown that was the Bears game? I was actually watching that end in the tree stand on my phone there. But what the heck was that?
So was Eberflus apparently.
Yeah, I'm sitting. I'm like, what's going on here?
It's funny because I was in our living room at my in-laws and I'm watching and I'm like, okay, call timeout.
Right,
call time. Like, if you're not gonna go, if you don't have the play like literally set up to go right away, Matt Eberflus, I mean, that's ultimately that's the downfall for him.
Right,
is him just sitting there staring.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how it's been for every one of these meltdowns, and then not taking any accountability.
Right,
like, oh, we had everything called right. It's like maybe you had 2 plays called, sure, but you cannot let your rookie quarterback go out there and run 25 seconds off the clock and not have even a chance to tie it. That's on the head coach
easily.
And he's not showing any, not showing any emotion, not showing any yelling at his players to go. LaFleur's not.
LaFleur would be jumping up and down and running around.
Right. A lot of people are now. LaFleur's kind of getting this reputation as a guy who chirps on the sidelines a lot. But I would rather see a guy showing emotion on the sideline than somebody just sitting there, not doing anything.
I'll go back to that. I think it was a Minnesota game. He was trying to get that timeout, and he was running down the sideline, and he ends up getting flagged for it. But I'd rather have the emotion. Guy who's actually trying to stay in tune to clock management.
Yeah, and maybe Eberflus is because he's a defensive guy, is sitting there like, okay, I'm not really like this isn't. But then that's again on him.
Right,
you're the head coach. It all falls down on you. You have to be sitting there like, okay, 30 seconds left. Come on, guys, come on. And if you get to 20. Even if you got to 15 seconds and you saw that you weren't going to get the play off,
right,
you call timeout.
Yeah.
If anything, you can still run one play out to the sidelines, have a shot to get 5-10 yards and make it a little easier for kicker. If not, you just have a chance to kick the ball.
Right.
It was just to me. I tweeted out that was maybe the worst clock management I've seen. I could not imagine being a Bears fan and just sitting there and watching that as a fan, just being like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And
because I honestly feel like if he would have just called time, even if they still lose that game, if they miss the field goal, he might still have his job.
Yeah.
I really feel like that.
The Bears aren't a team to fire people mid-season. They tend to hold on to guys for a long time.
Yeah.
Because that's just how their management, they don't like to pay that extra money.
Right.
For nothing.
Yep.
And I think if you call timeout right away. You still have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Even if you complete a pass, there is a chance if you get the first down, you spike the ball, you have like 2 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
Or you run the fire team out there.
Right, you get your special teams organized during that
Right.
timeout, to get ready to go out there.
It's like, hey, you guys, if this goes to this, we have to get out there, line up, which we've seen teams do that in very efficiently.
Yep.
But if they can't do that, that's on him. And I think he earned his firing.
Yeah.
He really did. I think it was you can't have the amount of bumbles to quote the Rudolph. I mean, there's just the stupid things they did at the end of games and expect to have your job.
You go back, it all started the downfall, the Hail Mary from the Commanders.
Yep.
They followed up by losing the Cardinals 29-9. Patriots, they lose 19-3. And just a couple games there towards the end, they lose to Green Bay by the block field goal. Vikings again, yes, they got the overtime, but then fall in overtime to the Vikings, and then this game against the Lions. Just how a couple games could have made a whole difference.
Yeah, and again, I mean, also it's on the players. You have a rookie quarterback out there who's still trying to. I think we saw it in the Vikings game where he's getting taking big sacks and stuff like that. But head coach wise, you got to be the one who's telling him to do this. And I felt like he just was never. It didn't look like he was comfortable being anything on offense.
Right.
Like he just backed off, and that's as a head coach, your job is to be in there for everything. And this is going to be taking people back, but it reminds me of the Ray Rhodes era.
Oh yeah,
for the Packers.
All roads lead to championships.
Yeah, and if you remember that era, and this is a long time ago, so a lot of our younger listeners out there have no clue. He just sat there, like you didn't see any something happen. He just was there.
Right.
Something else happened. I want a coach that's at least in tune to what's going on.
Right.
On both sides of the ball. And when you sit there and have no reaction, that just does not. It's not a good look.
Right. Is it, you got 3 head coach openings right now. All 3 coaches that were fired were defensive coaches too, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously with Robert Saleh, Dennis Allen, and now Matt Eberflus. Got to imagine Chicago's probably going to go offensive minded because, with the Caleb Williams, who knows though at this point, it's still Chicago. They pride themselves on defense. So, but I don't know if that's anything to it. You got all these young offensive coordinators that are kind of up and coming. Do teams want that next McVay, LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan type of coach over there? But I don't know if there's anything to it, but I just thought it was interesting. All 3 firings are all defensive minded head coaches right now.
And if you look at the Bears, it's such a bad cycle that they've been in. And with the drafting of a quarterback and then the head coach, it's never the head coach's quarterback that has gotten drafted.
Right.
And then the coach gets fired, and then the quarterback's stuck with a regime change, like in their second year, and having to try to figure out a new system. And then ultimately it's like, well, the quarterback failed. It's like, well, are the quarterbacks really failing?
Right.
Or is it the front office that's failing these quarterbacks?
Yep.
So I think Caleb Williams has plenty. I mean, we saw in the second half there what he can do. And he doesn't get scared out there.
No.
He holds on to the ball, and he there's a little bit of Rodgers in him where he's going to keep trying to keep a play alive, and sometimes I think to maybe his detriment where he holds on to it a little too long. But he's a rookie, and for him to do what he did in the second half there against a Lions team that obviously is the best in the conference right now,
right?
The potential's there.
Oh yeah,
it's just that's
what makes me nervous about a Packers fan is I hope they don't get that head coaching hiring right, because if they get it right,
there's going to be trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I will go on this again and again, but the way the Packers have done it with quarterbacks, if you have the ability to do it, man, it's great because you have these guys learning under a system. Now, granted, the Packers also have successful quarterbacks,
right,
able to play for a long time in the same system, which is huge. But you go back to like a Daniel Jones who had a different coordinator every year that he was playing. Basically, it screws up a guy, and if you're the Bears fan, you're hoping that they don't screw up Caleb Williams because he looks like he has the talent to be something out there special.
It would be such a waste of talent if they continue to have this evolving door of coaches and such over there. I mean,
it's just been a mess. It really has. I mean, I don't know. You go back to the Lovie Smith, and obviously they, make Super Bowl and then, battles with the Packers in the championship game. But that's 12, 13 years ago.
Right.
And it's been pretty bad.
Didn't they fire him after a 10-6 season, I think, too? So, It's like
you don't so be careful. The grass is not always greener. And I talk about that with like the Badgers basketball team. There's how many people have been on guard's case forever, but it's like,
yep,
you could easily go the other way. And maybe we can even say that that's what we're seeing right now with the Badgers football team.
Yeah. I want to hit up that coming up here too. So, all right. Keep your comments coming. Hit us up with the text 715-830-1912. Let's talk some Badger football. We'll take a quick break and be back with more after these quick words. Back with our guy, Justice Cleveland. I keep looking up at the clock, and it's actually sitting next to you because it's not working. So I got to keep looking at this small thing over here so I can.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere according to this clock.
This morning I was like, I'm working on some stuff. I'm like, oh, it's only 5:20. I got time. And then like a few minutes later, I look, I'm like, oh, still got plenty of time. And then it was like 5 minutes to 6. I looked up. I'm like, wait a minute, that came. Oh crap, I'm running late now. So
you're trying to turn in the Eberflus here,
right? Exactly. Yeah, clock management in the studio isn't working very well. Before we get to some bad football here, C-Bond, do you think Cliff Kingsbury lands in Chicago just for his ties with Williams at USC last season? So, well, that's the thing. His name's probably going to be attached. My question for him is he of that portion where he's a better coordinator than a head coach?
I think he is. I was never big on Cliff Kingsbury, and we saw how it fizzled out in Arizona.
Yep.
So I think coordinator-wise, if you can get a head coach and then bring him in as a coordinator.
Or does he want to leave Washington right now?
But if you're a Packer fan, maybe you want him to bring in Cliff Kingsbury because like the whole Kyler Murray thing did not work out there. Now that Murray was injured a little bit in that time frame, but
they would always start off really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but that was how he did it in college too, right?
Yeah.
His team started off really good and then faded in those second halves.
Quarterback whisperer.
Yeah. The one name, and I know it was a couple weeks ago where Schefter said he probably wouldn't, but things could change. I think the one name that a lot of us probably don't want to see is Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Although it would probably hurt Detroit on one hand, it probably really helped Chicago, bringing him in. So.
You think Lions would try to, shore up him?
Yeah.
Throw some money at him and say, hey, stay with us.
Yeah.
You've seen what they're doing over there. What do you want to go?
Right. Exactly. The thing is, too, he can be picky at this point.
Yeah.
He can command a lot.
And if you look at the Bears as one of the obviously original teams in the NFL, I mean, has the legacy just been tainted the last?
I'll throw this wild card in there. I threw a few weeks ago when people yell. I'm still throwing it in there. It's not going to happen, but I'll throw it in there. Bill Belichick to Chicago.
I could see him in that uniform. Not the uniform, but you know what? I would love
the
to
cutoff
see him
hoodie and the sidelines on Soldier Field and breaking the wins record as a Bears coach and all that. Oh yeah.
I'll throw the name out there. What if the guy who owns the Bears retires and becomes the coach? Aaron Rodgers.
Oh God. I saw the one that was being floated out there that I think it was Pro Football Talk that first started this. Was it like a week or two ago when Aaron said he still wants to play in New York? But then everybody's like, but he didn't say the Jets. He just said New York.
Yes, that would be great if he goes over to the Giants.
So it's him, the Giants, and Bill Belichick goes back to the Giants, the franchise that he grew up with, and those two tag team it over there. And I'm like, oh, God. But that's the point we got to be. I was like, well, he didn't say the Jets. He only said New York. But that's, he's done that to himself.
Yeah. Well, I know we're getting a little sidetracked here, but what point does Rodgers just look at it like, I don't know why he's got nothing to prove.
Right.
I know he wants that another Super Bowl, but at this point, man, it's not. I mean, everybody's like, well, it's Joe Namath with the Rams, it's Johnny Unitas with the Chargers. It hasn't gotten that bad. If you look at the stats for those guys, those final games, it was really ugly. And it was it was a different league back then too. But
I will say Tom Brady has ruined it for everyone, though.
Yeah,
that's
right,
the bar.
exactly.
That's there, so
yeah, when you're playing 45 years old and still out there, is one of the best. But I don't know. I mean, he's going to start for the Jets the rest of the year. We don't even know if that's going to happen at this point.
Yeah. Field Yates just tweeted the 9-3 Packers would be in first place in the NFC South by 3 games, in the NFC West by 2 games, in the AFC South by 1.5 games. Yet third in the NFC North right now.
And now you're going to have all those people like, well, we got to find a new way to do this playoffs.
I know.
But if you're those fans of those other teams, you're invested for the West, and obviously because everybody still basically has a chance to win that.
Yeah.
So you might as well keep it. I don't like the fact the Packers probably won't get a home playoff game.
Right.
But it keeps a lot of your fans invested in the games.
Exactly. Yep. Badger football.
Speaking of trying to be invested in games.
Yeah. So we know they're going to have a new offensive coordinator. We've already seen some players saying they're entering the transfer portal. Now, Justice, I kind of said this in the first hour. I'm of the age, my first memories are watching the 90s teams with Barry Alvarez as head coach and that. So this is a very unique offseason. Yes, we've had coaching changes, with Bielema leaving, and there was the Gary Anderson or Paul Chris coming in, et cetera, et cetera. We've had those. But I can't remember another offseason where I went and like, okay, this is this program is not in a good position. It's kind of fallen down. The coach has to nail this offseason. He has to nail his offensive coordinator. Yet the schedule is so hard again next year for Badger football. I don't remember ever being in a position like this and I'm sure I'm probably missing a couple of years, but it's a unique offseason where I don't remember going through as a fan.
No, I think this is one of the more pivotal, I can't even say it. Pivotal. Wow. Off seasons for the Badgers, really, because like you said, I don't think they've really been in this position. I think they've been middle of the road a lot of times, 7-5, something like that.
Yep.
To be 5-7 and probably shouldn't be in a bowl game, might somehow, but I think right now they it would take an academic thing and people decline. So it would basically take a Hail Mary for them to actually get into a bowl game.
Right.
But they don't deserve to be in one the way they've played the last few weeks.
No.
So it really, I mean, I don't know. We haven't had a lot of years where it's like make or break with a Badger football coach. Even Paul Chryst, I don't feel like that year he went in when he got fired was like, oh, this is make or break.
Right.
I think that team just so underperformed that they figured there was no choice but to make a change. So,
yep.
I mean, Fickell was this is the biggest hire they had made, I'd say, ever.
Yeah.
I mean, Barry Alvarez is the most important hiring they ever made, but there wasn't like, when he was hired, it wasn't like this is going to change the look of Wisconsin football. He just did that. Barry shaped this program. And Fickell came in with obviously the Ohio State pedigree. He had been at Cincinnati and found success.
Yep.
But it has not followed here. And the offense has regressed, even maybe worse than it's been down towards the end of the Paul Chryst era, where at least you had something to, I don't know what you're even banking on right now, because the running game isn't there.
Quarterback is definitely not there.
And then the defense has faded. Yeah. It just disappeared. So, yeah, this is very much going to be a make or break offseason for this Badger team and Luke Fickell.
And, you know, I think Chris McIntosh is going to be a little bit kind of, because this was, you know, a lot of fans and alumni too are going to be like, okay, this is the guy you chose over Jimmy Leonard.
Dan Leonard, right.
You know, and that was a guy a lot of people wanted. But yeah, when Luke Fickell was hired, you still had people that wanted Jimmy Leonard, but there was also, I think, a lot of, this was the common answer, feel bad for Jimmy, but pumped that they actually got a guy like Luke Fickell.
Right. He's the biggest name. You know, that was the big name out there. And for them to bring him in, it's a splash.
Yep.
But as we talked before, like, that grass is always greener. You know, you had a lot of Wisconsin guys come in for that job. Like, you've had kind of a tradition there. But the last time you didn't, it was Gary Anderson.
Right.
And that didn't work out.
No.
And now, you know, you could have had Jimmy Leonard and you have a guy who's going to have those in-state ties. And if you're not getting those big transfer portal guys, which I don't see Wisconsin has not been doing it, you almost have to be so good at your recruiting your own base that you're getting the best guys in your state.
Right.
It's just right now, I don't know where Wisconsin is as a program. They want to be one of those top Big Ten programs. Are they going to spend the money to be those programs? Because that's what it's all about now.
Yep.
And I just don't think, you know, Wisconsin, it's tough. It is really a tough situation to be in, because I think Wisconsin, obviously, as an academic school, is one of the top in the country.
Right.
At what point do you almost have to sell out your morals and start dishing out more money? College football is in an ugly place right now. It really is. You know, we were talking off air. It's in a bad position right now, because how do you build without just being a rebuild every year? And that's what we're seeing now with these top programs. It's almost like, okay, well, we're Georgia, we do great. Well, let's go. You know, the rich keep getting richer, and it's going to be tough for Wisconsin to find their place in this day and age in college football.
Well, it's essentially who was the number one quarterback that went to Michigan. It's like it was all about the moolah, though, right? You know, it's like that's what you're going to have to go to. And now, you know, with the programs having to shell out money to players, now you're seeing colleges saying, yeah, we're not going to have as many student athletes anymore, you know, because those numbers are going to go down. And I think you're at a point now too, you're going to have to play guys younger. You can't. Remember, it was like Alabama was like, oh, they're stacking quarterbacks. 1 year it's Jalen Hurts, and it's Tua. You know, it's like the next year and all that. You can't do that anymore
because the guys aren't going to have any patience.
Right. You know, you're going to have to play your younger guys right away.
Yeah, and I'm not blaming the players.
No.
This goes on in college football. They had years to try to get a system in place. Instead, they just ripped the Band-Aid off. Instead of having like a tiered, maybe like a little bit, hey, you can, if you want to go out there and use your image and likeness and make money, fine.
Yep.
That's fine. And if they would have done that, I think that kind of stems this tide of, hey, now we have to really actually pay guys big money to go in. Because if you guys are making this on their own, schools don't have to get involved. But they fought it until the point they just threw up their hands and said, yeah, we're done.
Right.
So then the flood came in, and now there's no controls anymore.
Nope.
Everything is
and you can't go back.
It's the wildest. Yeah. You opened it up. Good luck.
Exactly. Hey, at least there's a couple Badger teams though that are doing fairly well. Badger basketball's 11-0 to begin the season. But what the heck? They only scored 74 against Chicago State. They didn't get over 79 for that game, for crying out loud. So they were
The
averaging
streak's
79.5.
gone.
Done. What's wrong with them? Michigan coming up tomorrow, but then that big game against Marquette on Saturday. That's
Yeah.
going to be fantastic.
Well, you don't want to overlook Michigan though, because
No.
that's your conference opener,
Right.
and yeah, I mean that's a big game. That's a good two big stretch there with those two games.
And then Illinois right after Marquette, which
Yeah.
you know could be a good one too.
So I that basketball team, I've loved what I've seen from it. I think you like to, you know, they make it close, but that's still the Badgers.
Yep.
It's still going to be the Badgers. Badger going to Badger. But the way they've been able to make adjustments mid-game, which I don't think they were doing as well last couple seasons. You know, there's been games where they've just taken like Crowell out and said,
Yep.
We can't use you right now because everybody's going small against us. We're going to have to take you out and go small ourselves and find success with it. That shows me that this team has a really good build, and I think one that hopefully can sustain it this whole season.
Mondays we kind of do I'm not saying, I'm just saying sort of thing. So I'll throw one out there. I'm not saying he's the best player in the country, but I'm saying that John Tonje might start to get some looks at maybe Naismith National Player of the Year.
Oh, I think so. If he keeps playing the way he is, I mean, what a signing. You know, you talk about the signings and guys transferring.
Transfer portal, yeah.
Basketball is kind of in the same boat, but I feel like in a different way because you still have to have it feels like with college football, it's almost like you can clean a slate.
Right.
Whereas basketball wise, it's almost like you keep some core guys, but you add another guy. And I think right now, it's a good exchange from what they had last year. Tonje seems like he's in a good place there to really help this team and seems like a really good team player.
Hear what Chucky Hepburn said a couple days ago?
No, I did not.
So this was some of his quotes. Senior year, I had kind of been laying in the back seat for quite a long time, and it's time to show the world who Chucky Hepburn is. I'm a bucket getter, one of the best point guards in the country, and I stand by that. He did score 32 points in that game, I think, but yeah, that's...
And just so is Chucky saying he didn't have the opportunity? Because, I mean, if you were watching Badger basketball last couple of years, Chucky was touching the ball all the time.
Yeah.
But he wanted to be the go-to guy, where he was probably asked to be the facilitator more or less. He still scored a lot, so.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we're talking about college athletics now, and where if a guy feels like he's not getting his due, see ya.
Yep.
It doesn't take much for these guys, or somebody whispering in your ear like, hey, man, you know, he's scoring 30, but you're the man, you'd be scoring 35. Well, you got to get out of here. Go somewhere else. Go. And that's all it takes is like, you know, somebody probably whispering in your ear saying, hey, it's the devil's on, you know, the devil and angel on your side.
Angel, yep, exactly.
And it doesn't take much, especially when you're in your 20s. And we've been there.
Yep.
You're very susceptible. I'm not even trying to say
susceptible.
That word. Thank you. Today is not, the tongue's not warmed up for the week, but yeah.
Couple texts here. Our buddy Mark says, Captain, you're lucky to not have to endure 80s Badger and Packer football. I did a lot more hunting and fall fishing back in those days. You know, a lot of people tell me that, and that's where I'll be like, good. I don't want to. I don't want. That's why, you know, there's sometimes when it comes up, it's like, well, you know, you never went through the 80s and never, you know, if we have a down year or something like that. Good. I don't want to. I don't want to. So
no, and I always say I was lucky. I moved from North Dakota to Wisconsin in 1991. So I pretty much have only known, especially like Badger football, successful Badger football and Packer football, obviously 95% of the time they've been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been really lucky, but yeah, I mean, you look at the Bears, you know, you can, it can easily go back to that and teams, whether you're enduring for decades,
right,
trying to find that right piece. So I think
hell, even Detroit this year, their first 10-game winning streak since was it 10-game winning streak or something like that since the 50s or whatever it was.
Right.
I mean, you know,
yeah, it's Cleveland, obviously, looking at them this year. There is always, you know, there's always a bad example to look at a team that's just struggling, whereas Wisconsin sports have been pretty lucky.
Yeah.
This is about as down as football's been for a stretch, though.
For Badger football, yeah.
I mean, this is we're probably going about 5-year stretch where they've been, you know, going to bowl games, but
Yeah.
Since they made it was like that Big Ten championship, was it 2018 or something like that? Like it seems like since then
Mhm.
it was plateauing and then it's went down.
Big time. Doug saying college football blew it. Imagine if they allowed NIL years ago, it would be a partnership in branding and kids would stay longer in the program. Transfer portal would have been delayed. So
Right. And they if they would have found a way to just make that a little bit of a trickle of money.
Mhm.
And it all kind of goes back to, was it the EA Sports college football game?
Yep.
Like that was where it was like, okay, you're using our likenesses,
Mhm.
but our names aren't involved, so we don't get like, if
Right.
you would have allowed that little bit of stuff to happen,
Exactly.
I think it changes it, instead of just being like, here we go. It's
And people like Brandenburg would not have spent hours upon hours editing those games to put in their player names.
oh, exactly. So it's they, again, college football did it to themselves. It's all
Mhm.
about the money. And unfortunately, I mean, that's every sport at this point. Money is the biggest factor for everything in
Yeah.
college football. It's definitely a huge factor now.
Exactly. All right. Got you for a few more minutes?
Sounds good.
All right. Sounds good. We're going to take a quick break and wrap up the second hour here with Mr. JC in the EC after this quick break. Quarter to 8 here this morning. We're wrapping up this hour with our good buddy, Mr. Justice Cleveland, WEAU 13 News sports director. Kind of in the full swing of the winter sports season. Now we got girls basketball started off. Was it last week or the week before?
Week before, yeah.
Their season started off. Boys getting underway.
Yep, started off last week. Last week was the first week. So
Nice.
hockey's in full swing this
Mhm.
week. I mean, everything is going now.
Yeah, just it's still kind of early to maybe kind of get a gauge of where everybody's at, especially with the basketball programs. Like Big Rivers Conference. I know Regis girls took down my Metford at a tournament in Rylander too. So
That Regis girls team, I got to see them in their first game of the year. They look like they're going to be a tough squad.
yeah,
You had some of that crossover from that volleyball team that went to
Mhm.
state, and so yeah, I see that. And Ellie Mae Cooper, just a world class talent out there, and they're going to be a fun team to watch this year and see where they can go. Teddy Joe is a great coach too. So
Yep. So that'll be a team for sure over there. And Blue Gold wise too. Blue Gold men's basketball. They've put together a few wins in a row here. That's the thing with that team too. You look at their losses. Their 3 losses, 1 possession loss.
yeah,
They're just literally like a bucket away from maybe being undefeated to begin the season for Zach Melvig's first year.
yeah, they're right there. And I mean, I would venture to say the same thing for the women's team, who've had big leads that they've unfortunately let go in the second half there, and they could be right there too. So you like where things are building, because this first month's kind of a feel out and get your team going and get ready for conference play.
Right.
And I think these teams are going to be real tough once conference play. We got that coming up soon, because there's a little bit of slate right before.
You got Superior this weekend for the Blue Golds, and then
the fake conference game.
Yep. Then it really kicks off beginning of January, because then they got a couple of non-conferences after that too. So
and I think it's so you get the men's and women's basketball teams playing Superior, and the hockey team. I find one of the hockey teams, if I'm not mistaken, also plays Superior. That I know there's a lot of Superior, because I was making up the schedule. I'm like, I hope Superior is using 1 bus or two to get down here, saving gas. So
so the men's hockey team takes on River Falls on Saturday.
That's right.
Over there.
So maybe it's the women's hockey.
Let me.
Am I just dreaming?
Up right
I look
now.
at a lot of schedules, so things start to blend together after.
No, you're right. Women's team takes on Superior on Saturday at 2 p.m. So
yeah, you got that 2 p.m. Then the women's game, I think it's 3 p.m. and then men's at 3 p.m. and then the women's games after that. So if you'd like to see jackets, golds, you got gold jackets, you got a good chance there.
Well, that's why we are going to the to the basketball games, because Hudson's flag football team was the Yellow Jackets. So
nice.
Blue Gold jacket. Yep, that's why. So
yeah, and then
that was a game he picked to go to. So
watch games at the Sonnentag.
Yep,
can't beat that.
Yeah, if anybody hasn't gone to check that out, it's and I think they're still kind of learning. I was talking to Nick Hoven a couple weeks ago. Said they're still kind of figuring stuff out. Product game day production and all that sort of stuff. But man, it's just a different feel. It's a different
really
environment.
Is.
So
it's a well lit feel. Nothing against the Zorn, but it just seems like a different. It's like night and day compared to when you walk in. Zorn had its quirks, and I loved being there. But yeah, it's nice to walk into that Sonnentag and just be like, wow, this is so impressive.
Exactly. Surveyor Sam, our good buddy, universities need to start making student athletes sign contracts in order to build some sort of program. If universities have to pay these kids, and the athletes should have to sign at least a 2-year contract with the university, this doesn't have to be complicated. Well, I don't think it's going to be that easy, because I think that would be a lot of courts, lawsuits. You're going to have the argument. I'm not saying I agree with it, but you're going to have the argument that, well, a coach can leave after a year, or that you hear that argument every single year.
I think it's going to be tough. I mean, then you run into like salary caps. I mean, if you make another league, I don't disagree with what he's saying. Like, you would love to be able to have the commitment, but can that commitment just be broke by the team after a year? Which is going to be the tough argument if you're one of these student athletes. Is like, well, but that's how it works in professional sports.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's so convoluted at this point. I don't know what is going to be done to fix it.
I don't either.
An act of Congress might be what it ends up going to.
Right.
That's the only way, I think.
I don't know what's in worse position, this or Major League Baseball and teams like the Dodgers just deferring money and spending money and accumulate, because you ain't getting a salary cap in that one. That's long gone. That ain't happening.
That's broke now too.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have these teams that are the richest teams, and you guarantee that they're going to be the ones that are, even though they've signed the top free agent for 5 straight years, able to go out there and sign the top free agent again because of all the deferring of money.
Right. Yeah.
It's
It's just, would it surprise anybody if still Juan Soto ended up? No.
no,
I wouldn't be surprised.
not at all.
You know,
You know, when then
I'd be
the
pissed,
rumors started going out there, you're like, probably going to happen.
Yeah.
How? I don't know, but somehow they find a way to skirt, maybe pay the luxury tax.
Or even Willie Adames signs a big contract to go over there,
Right.
after they sign Blake Snell and all that. So it's like, jeez.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand how it works.
Yeah.
It's just, obviously they have people that are making a lot of money inside to make sure that they can spend this money, but this deferring is going to come back to haunt a team at some point.
You would think so, right?
Like, how does it work that I mean, you get the Mets, for example, with like the Bobby Bonilla. Now it's pennies on the dollar comparatively,
Right.
but if somebody's, one of these big time deferring deals is probably going to come back to really haunt a team at some point.
I would think so. But, at the same time, like, if I'm okay, so Ohtani is the big one because that was the first time we heard like a lot of defers. Defer's been around, but that was a big one.
Yep.
Over there. I'll play 10 years. I'll get a good salary. And then when I'm done playing, or after that 10 years, I could retire and I'm getting like 30 million a year
Right.
to do nothing. Sign me up for that. I'd sign up for that in a heartbeat.
Here's the problem is like when left to their own intentions, owners are not going to do what's best for the game.
No.
They're going to do what's the best for them.
Yep.
And when there's no regulation on that, you can say whatever you want about free market in sports.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen what happens.
Yep.
They're going to do whatever it takes to be their team to be the best. Whatever the rest of the league happens, what happens to an Oakland A's team that ends up playing 4 seasons in Sacramento?
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
As long as their team, as long as you're the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the MLB can't really do anything to stop it at this point because they've said long ago they're not going to do a salary cap.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's again, I feel like that's been the theme of today is just how much money has changed a lot of these sports. And I get it. I don't want to be the old man because this isn't anything new. But like I said, if you let the owners do what they want,
mm-hmm.
they're not going to do what's best for the full league. They're going to do what's the best for their team.
Yeah. I was just reading a little bit here from this just Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic. I mean, it's just kind of like what he's hearing so far. As he notes here, it's one of his first lines. The 5 known Soto bidders are Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Dodgers. The teams that you would every year, right?
The Dodgers, the Blue Jays being like kind of like
we heard Dodgers last year for Ohtani. It was like, oh, okay, and then everybody thought because it's the whole Twitter, spot him at the airport, that sort of thing. It was like, oh, but that would have been cool. But yeah, you've heard that. I wonder more so Blue Jays, are they doing it because they have to? Because Yankees, Red Sox.
Well, exactly. But like if you're like the Rays,
mm-hmm.
who are going to be playing in a minor league stadium, like where does that leave them?
Yeah. I think the Rays are going to suffer for a while here.
Yeah. This is, until that new stadium is, did I see there was something like there's a delay in that getting done at this point?
Yeah.
They're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. It's the haves and the have-nots, and you're lucky like a team like the Brewers are able to compete year in and year out with like the likes of the Cubs who have moved up into that,
mm-hmm.
that area where, they're not quite the Yankees and the Dodgers, but they're maybe a tier below them for spending.
And I think it's maybe even a little surprising for some that they haven't, maybe even more surprising for Craig Counsell that they haven't spent as much money as some people thought.
Well, how can they? They're paying Craig Counsell so much.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because you look at that compared to like player salaries and it's
mm-hmm.
like, yeah, he's not even close to what.
But he reset the market for manager salaries.
Right.
Pat Murphy should maybe get a little bit more now since he got a manager of the year award. Counsell has 0. I had to put it in there. Had to throw it in there. So.
Yeah. No, baseball. It's and the Brewers really not making a whole lot of noise,
and
we expected
exactly. And I do wonder too, with the whole changing of TV money and such. Are we in for a year or two where the budget might be a little bit lower because they don't know where that money's coming from? Because it's not going to be Bally anymore.
Well, the 27 different partners they have for the game on Roku, the game on Apple, the game on Peacock, the game
it threw me for a loop the other day when I was like watching FanDuel. I was for the Bucks. I'm like, so it changed. I was like, geez, I'm so confused right now with a lot of that stuff.
I'm back. I'm from the old days of the MSC. Midwest Sports Channel
Yeah.
back when the Brewers and Bucks used to play on that. So.
Yep, exactly. So, but I don't know what to expect this year. I really don't. So, but
Yeah, we'll see where I think they'll be competitive because they find a way.
they do. And you look at that division, I mean, the Cardinals are kind of, it sounds like Nolan Arenado might be moving on.
Mhm.
Cubs aren't really doing anything at this point. Reds, I'm interested in because you bring in Terry Francona. Are you going to try to bolster that young roster with some moves?
Has it felt like we've been saying that about the Reds though for
It
the last
has.
decade? Like, this is the year they have all this talent,
Yep.
and it just never has really led to anything.
The one team that should just go all in is the Pirates because you're going to only have Paul Skeens for a couple years.
Yeah, until unless
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna just get rid of him. But
He's probably going to be unless something, knock on wood, injury wise. I think it's fair to say he's probably going to be the highest paid starting pitcher in a few years here.
Yeah. I mean, you have something special there.
Mm-hmm.
Will you have anything around him?
He is a dude that is like, I feel like he is the one guy when he's on the mound, you're almost guaranteed to win.
Yeah.
When we talk
He's
about those
Steve
aces,
Carlton of
yeah,
but you don't want to be the team that Steve Carlton where he won 27 games and they only won 54 or whatever it was that year. Like,
but he's like the one I feel like that's the ace, that's the true ace where when he's out there, it's like, oh yeah, we got the win.
Yeah.
Like,
for all you've seen of him, he just handles it so well. I mean, granted, Livy Dunn is his girlfriend and is a social media superstar, but he handles everything. Like, it doesn't seem like you would not think he's a rookie. And granted, he was, out when he was at LSU, there was already a lot of hubbub about him, but
yeah,
he has handled this well. I mean, if you can have a guy who can handle it that even keel and go win Rookie of the Year, I think you have a guy who you need to find something to get around him because he's only starting once every 5 days.
It's kind of like that those NFL teams when you get that rookie quarterback and you spend elsewhere to try to take advantage of the quarterback on that rookie contract.
Yeah.
So
you're playing with house money right now. You got to find a way to take advantage. But if I know the Pittsburgh Pirates, they probably won't.
Nope. One text here before we let you go here. John says, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, but Josh Allen at this point should be the MVP, and his touchdown pass, catch, and run was probably the play of the year last night. I think he should be in it. I'll throw Saquon Barkley should also be in.
I would throw Saquon in there, but I think if Josh Allen keeps doing what he's doing, I think it's going to be hard. Quarterback always has the advantage, I think, in that position, but the way he's playing right now, he's cleaned things up. It's like when we want, the Brett Favre couple first years where it was like even keel with touchdowns and interceptions, maybe even more interceptions.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like those years where they were going to the championship game, it just started to click. I think we've seen that guy who's been Josh Allen's always been compared to Favre, and I think you could see a lot of it.
Yep.
Especially even like that play last night.
Yeah, I don't know what the updated odds were, but I know Lamar was still up there and Patrick Mahomes was still up there. To me, it's either Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley as the top two.
Yeah,
for MVP.
I mean, great for Saquon what he has done there and just shoved it down the throat of the New York Giants for being
he did. So
big mistake.
So is Xavier McKinney too.
Yes, exactly.
All right, dude. We appreciate it, man. Safe travels out there.
Me.
One more hour to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these news updates. All right, final hour kicking off right now on this Monday morning, first Monday of December, December 2nd. A big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. If you're out on the roads, I don't know what they're like right now, but just when I was looking out there over an hour ago, got a little snow covered out there. So be careful if you're driving right now. Don't text us if you're driving right now. Okay, don't text and drive. Wait till you stop and pull over, maybe get at work or after you drop the kiddos off. So, but again, big thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, all had a good Thanksgiving holiday. And you're ready for a little bit of a normal week here, although not really a normal week for the Pack, as they'll be back at it Thursday night, taking on the Detroit Lions. Big time matchup coming up here on Thursday. Packers returned to practice yesterday, so yesterday was kind of like a Wednesday. If we take a normal week for Green Bay, like if they played on a Sunday, let's say. Yesterday would have been like a Wednesday when they returned to practice. And the Packers maybe getting some positive news. Here with the injury front. Romeo Doubs and Jair Alexander both practiced yesterday. The only two to not was still Edgerrin Cooper, who's dealing with that hamstring, and then Corey Ballentine, who got hurt in that kickoff, in the opening kickoff Thursday night against the Miami Dolphins. Those were the only two to not practice. Romeo Doubs is still officially in concussion protocol, but typically in that concussion protocol, practice is the last step before getting fully cleared. So definitely looks like he's on that path to potentially playing Thursday night against the Lions. Be nice if Jair's out there too. So, but this was from Ryan Wood. I love Tucker Kraft, man. So you never know what's some of the stuff that's coming out of that guy's mind. So Tucker Kraft was asked about Kirby Joseph, the Lions safety, and he said he's a respectable player in the NFC, but in my mind, I'm not really worried about DBs too often. I'm more worried about the guys in the box, and I'm sure they bring guys down, safety rotation, and we target them in the run. But it's just a different game. I don't have too many tidbits on Kirby. I know he's a dangerous player. He can flip games. He's a good DB. I might not agree with some of the places he likes to lay contact. He's taken some of my brothers out of the game, and I think about that too. So if I get a chance to get my hands on him, playing football. All right. Maybe we might maybe something to watch in that game Thursday with Tucker Kraft and Kirby Joseph if they get a little 1v1 over there. The first hour, when we were talking about a little green and gold here, I was kind of throwing out the question, what has impressed you the most about what you have seen from this Packers team in the last couple of weeks with their win against the 49ers, their win against the Dolphins this past Thursday? What if you had to narrow it down to just one? There's a few, and it's going to be tough to just pick one. But if there was just one thing that has really stood out to you or has really impressed you about this team from the last couple weeks, what would it be? I threw out a few different options in that first hour. It could be, let's give credit to where credit's due. Quay Walker has played very well in his last couple weeks. Can he continue to play at that level? Because if he could continue to play at that level, this is a completely different defense. To have a playmaking linebacker, to have a dominant linebacker, I'm not saying Quay Walker's dominant right now because we need to see a whole lot more of it. We need to see it consistently over there. But if he could continue to stack success like he has been, it changes this entire defense. But Quay Walker, let's give him credit. He has played better, a lot better as of late. I would also say too, the red zone offense has been much better in the last couple weeks. I mean, you're talking about a team that is coming away with touchdowns when they get inside the 20 instead of settling for field goals. So they've been doing a better job at that. We talked about it. We talked about it last week, going up against Miami's defense, which had been successful. Kind of getting in there, and Green Bay had the advantage there. They won that matchup. But you could throw that in there. You can maybe throw Jordan Love taking care of the football a little bit better, although I would say there's been a couple throws in each of those games against San Francisco and Miami where it kind of made you pucker up a little bit, like, don't make that throw. Throwing in the coverage, maybe making a questionable decision there, but luckily hasn't thrown any picks, taking care of the football a little bit there. We talked a little bit about could it be? I would throw it in there too. The game plans and how the coordinator / head coach has called these games, Matt LaFleur, how he's been calling these offensive games and the game plans that he's been playing. Because I've seen some people on social media and such saying Green Bay needs to throw it more and all that. I love what they're doing by really focusing on trying to run the football with Josh Jacobs and playing a little power football here. And if they got to get into a throwing situation, well, they've got the horses, they've got the weapons to do that. But I feel like with Green Bay able to control the tempo, control the clock and time of possession, that in turn is also helping out their defense too. Because if you can control that clock and you have these 7-minute drives that end in a touchdown, and you're putting teams in a hole, maybe takes them out of what they essentially want to do a little bit there too. So, and then Jeff Hafley with how he's been calling some of these games defensively and game plans and such. So those are just a few. But if you had to pick one, maybe I'm probably missing one too. If there was something that has maybe really impressed you as of late, or at least in these last couple of wins against San Francisco, and yes, San Francisco was banged up. Understand that, get that. And Miami coming to cold weather environment. They did not kill the narrative like they kept talking about that they wanted to do or were going to do. But looking at these last couple weeks, what has maybe impressed you or stood out to you the most regarding this this Packers team? Hit me up with that text 715-830-1912. Think about it for a little bit and hit me with what you got. Packers seem, knock on wood, though, too, entering this game. The one thing is with Detroit, they've been getting banged up a little bit with injuries, specifically on the defensive side. And, I know Green Bay made that change this year, and I don't know if it's a direct relation to it. I think a lot of it could be luck is involved in it, too. But, again, knock on wood. Yes, Jordan Love missed a couple games because he was banged up, but overall, Green Bay's been fairly healthy. And we're talking about heading into week 14 of this season. Week 14 and only 2 guys didn't practice. Only 2 guys didn't practice. Edgerrin Cooper and Corey Ballentine. That's it. I mean, you look at some of the injury reports and you're looking at dudes who are like, they've been missing a ton of time or missing practice and such. For the most part, yes, guys have missed a couple games here or there, but we haven't had that injury to a player that's been an extended loss. You could throw Jair in there, I guess, missing a few games here and there, but compared to other years, they're fairly, and I think that's going to be a big thing. If they can end this season, not only get into their groove and kind of hitting their mark as they enter the postseason, but if they can be fairly healthy and in really good shape health-wise as they enter the postseason too, man, maybe Green Bay could make a little bit of a run here. Let's catch up on a couple of texts here. This is from Jim. Jim saying what's impressed me the most the last couple weeks has been the play of Quay Walker. I'm not ready to crown him yet, but definitely have seen better play. Why do you think he has been playing better these last couple weeks? Quay Walker talked about it. We've talked about it before in the past, but Quay Walker recently just kind of said too, and he alluded to it, that just going out there and playing and maybe not thinking as much. And I know that kind of is like, what, but just going out there and playing football instead of maybe overthinking things. Xavier McKinney is on record by saying he will have the back of his players. He will support his guys, his teammates, and all that sort of stuff. But Xavier McKinney had some high praise about Quay Walker. Now, take it a little bit with a grain of salt because he is his teammate. But this was from Ryan Wood. This was a couple days ago, back on the 29th. Quay is a hell of a player. From the time that I got around him when I first came to now, obviously he's growing each game, each practice. But from my eyes and what I've seen, I believe Quay is the best middle linebacker in the league, in my opinion. I think he has so many different qualities that you don't really see. He can cover well, he can tackle well, he shoots, he can do a lot of things. Obviously, he's still growing and he's kind of going through, he goes through different things because he's got the mic. That's something I completely understand because I had the mic when I was in New York for a time. I know how hard that blank can be. We'll just say poop. So I understand him. I try to help him get certain calls out, and I just try to make his job easier so he can go out there and play fast. When he goes out there and he plays fast, there ain't a lot of people who can do what he can do. Playing fast, not overthinking, not just going out there and playing football. And maybe is that one of the things? Then I think it kind of goes into the question of if he didn't have the mic responsibilities, if he didn't have, the communication device in his helmet where he could just go out there and play football, would he be a better player? Would he be a little bit better player? Maybe just kind of getting a little bit more comfortable. Quay Walker, I think I just do too much thinking, to be honest with you, instead of just going out there and just playing. So, yeah. And I think, too, you look at the pressures in that game against Miami. Quay Walker had 4 pressures tied for the most on the team with Rashawn Gary. And I think Jeff Hafley, too, is doing a really good job now of playing to players' strengths, putting players in a position that really exemplifies their strengths or really showcases their strengths. And we saw that a little bit earlier in the season when, you bring in Evan Williams and you play him more. We saw this a little bit, throughout the season. And maybe now we're finally starting to see that a little bit with Quay Walker. Coming off of the blitz, getting after the quarterback a little bit more, utilizing because we know it. Quay Walker has insane athleticism. He's fantastic. He's got fantastic athletic skills. And it was just always kind of frustrating watching him because it was just like, okay, what's going on? Like we can see the speed, we can see this stuff. It was just never was really like molded and put together here. Lucas Van Ness, give him credit. The guy has been playing a little bit better as of late, too. Picked up a sack against Miami. He's playing a little bit better. Kenny Clark, maybe his best game of the season against Miami, too. A couple more texts to get to here before we get to another break. This one's from Ryan. Ryan saying what has stood out to me in these last couple weeks has been Green Bay's commitment to running the football. Too many times in the past, Green Bay has abandoned it and gone straight to throwing it with their high-priced quarterbacks. And that's the thing too that I've seen some people say that they got to throw the ball more. I disagree. I disagree. Give the ball to number 8. He sets the tone. And I want to play a little power football, especially when you get into this point in time of the season. If you can play a little power football and you can have success running the football and you're making teams respect that run, it's going to help out your passing game. You're controlling the clock. You're controlling the time of possession. I've got no problem with Green Bay being a running football team right now. And if they got to get into a point where Jordan Love's throwing 45 times, I feel like they're in trouble or they're in a big-time shootout. Control the clock, run the football. And they're doing a good job. And I think a lot of that success that they've been having in the red zone recently has been because of Josh Jacobs and running the football. We got a couple more texts to what was this here? Okay, so that was the 27th. Okay. I just found an old quote from it was before the Miami game from Jeff Hafley about Quay Walker. But anyways, let's go back to the text line. Eric says what's stood out to me has been the run defense. Seems like this group has gotten better throughout the season, and I think they're a top 10 run defense right now. If you look at the numbers, if you look at the rankings and stats, the Packers are officially a top 10 run defense. And you look at how they didn't allow the Dolphins to really run the football. Same with the 49ers and McCaffrey. And I'm not trying to diminish it, but I think, again, it goes hand in hand with what the offense is doing. I think with the offense being able to take a lot of time off the clock and putting up points and putting teams into early holes, into early deficits, that's also helping out the Packers' run defense. Plays hand in complementary football. You hear that phrase a lot. And I think that's where you're seeing the success from the run defense. And I don't want to take away anything from the players or what they're doing on the field, but I think that does play into it a little bit. Because you look at the Dolphins, I mean, Packers jumped up to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter thanks to the fumbled punt right away. Dolphins ran the ball 14 total times, and that's got 2 credited carries for Tua. 14. Against the 49ers, 16 carries. And Christian McCaffrey had 11 of those. Green Bay put San Francisco in a hole early. We know Kyle Shanahan wants to run the football. If he could run the football every single down, he would. But Green Bay limiting opponents from trying to run the football because of playing solid defense, but also putting teams in early holes and kind of taking them out of their game plans. I think that plays a lot into it. Jeff with the text, and then we got to take a quick break, but keep your text coming. Jeff says what stood out to me is the play of Josh Jacobs, not just in the running game, but he has really developed into an overall offensive threat for this team when you factor in his pass catching ability. And you look at Josh Jacobs in that Miami game, yeah, he had 19 carries for only 43 yards, but he had 4 catches for 74 yards. That was a sweet juke, by the way, on that one play against that Miami defender. But you're right, Josh Jacobs has, and that was something that was talked about in the offseason, training camp, and preseason about Josh Jacobs' ability in the passing game. Aaron Jones is really good in the passing game too. And Josh Jacobs was going to have an opportunity to showcase what he could do in the passing game. And so far this season, when you look at what he has done, he's, it's not eye-popping numbers, 27 catches for 260 yards, but it's a 9.6 average. Let me see if I can see what he's done in his career. So, yeah, he's got 27 catches for 260. Last year for the Raiders, he had 37 catches for 296. 53 catches in 2022 for 400 yards. So, I mean, overall, he's a guy that's a couple of years he had over 50 catches over there too. So maybe getting Josh Jacobs a little bit more involved in the passing game as of late here, because when you 4 catches, he didn't have any against San Francisco, but he had 4 against Chicago, 4 catches for 58 yards too. All right, we got to take a quick break. Keep your texts coming. Keep your thoughts coming, though, all right? Hit me up, 715-830-1912. We'll be back in just a few short minutes. Reminder, today is the deadline. Today's the deadline. We are taking some kiddos Christmas shopping as part of our Backyard Dreams program. We did this last year. We're going to do it again. We're going to take the kids shopping next week at Fleet Farm, Mills Fleet Farm. But today is the last day to nominate a child. So head to sportstalk1051.com. You can click on the Fan Cave tab, scroll down, you'll see the icon there, or head to aroundthe715.com and you can nominate a child over there. Today's a deadline, so nominate that child, or if you know somebody, tell them, like, hey, go to this website and nominate so and so. So we want to make this Christmas extra special. Hard to believe Christmas is already 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks from today. So, but get those nominations in, and we want to make it an extra special Christmas for a lot of people, or for a lot of kids out there. So more details there. Also, we got Festival of Toys that's going to be starting later this week. Murph always does a fantastic job with that, taking your new unwrapped toys at later on this week, and that's a tradition over there that Murph started a long time ago and does a fantastic job. And it's so awesome to see everybody stopping by and dropping off some toys for a lot of kids in our area too. So that'll be beginning later on this week. More details about the best holiday ever, you can find them out at aroundthe715.com. You got contests, you got events, music up there on the stream, all that good stuff. All that good stuff were there. A lot of stuff happening for the best holiday ever. And shout out to some of our sponsors. We've got Collective Charm, EC Moving and Storage, Flamingo Power Washing, Green Oasis, Hurricane Hearts, Hibbish, Hy-Vee, Merchants Bank, Meyer International Trucks, Maury's Auto, Family Law, Shields, TF Exteriors. Where are we at? Bottom of the hour? Yeah, bottom of the hour here, 8:30. We've got a couple more texts to hop in on. It is I'm not saying, I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but I'm saying Matt LaFleur should get more attention for Coach of the Year. That is from Ryan on our texting line. I would agree with you. I would be shocked if he wins it. I don't think he's going to win it. You got Dan Campbell in there. Probably Kevin O'Connell is going to get some attention over there too with what Minnesota's doing. And, second place of the division, squeaking out some wins. But, hey, that doesn't matter. Win's a win right now. But definitely with what he's done, especially with Sam Darnold and that offense, he's going to get a look at probably Sean McDermott, I would think, for Buffalo. Mike Tomlin should. I mean, for crying out loud, I think Mike Tomlin, for as much success as he has had and, championship and such, and gone to the Super Bowl a couple times, I feel like he's still a little underrated over there. But what a fantastic job he has done, too. So, Matt LaFleur's not going to win it. He's not going to win it, but maybe he deserves a little bit more credit, if you will, or attention for it. I would say, boy, if I had to wager a guess who's going to win it this year, maybe Sirianni from Philadelphia too. I mean, he was kind of on the hot seat coming in the year. Does McDonald over there at Seattle get? I don't know about. I think it's going to be Tomlin. I think it's gonna be Tomlin or Campbell. Those two, one of those two. If Detroit finishes off the season with like 1 or 2 losses, then I think it's Campbell. So, another one. I'm not saying that the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl, but I'm just saying they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. That's from Matt over there. So, all right, keep those coming. Get some good ones over there. We'll make sure we spread the love on the air. Here's another one here too. I missed a little bit earlier. I apologize. John had sent this a little bit earlier. I'm not saying he's going to get fired, but I'm just saying Luke Fickell might have been one of the worst decisions in Badger football history. Yeah, this is so weird. It's weird because, like, what happened? Like, when he got hired, when it was announced that he was going to be the hiree, there were still quite a few people like, I would have gone with Jim Leonhard. I'm sure those people are saying, see, told you. And you kind of wonder what this program would be like if Jimmy Leonhard was the head coach. But a lot of people were of the mindset like, feel bad for Jimmy, but I like the hire, or this is a good hire, or I'm excited, or something like that. And a lot of it was just because at that point in time, didn't think a hire like this could happen or would happen. And it has not even been close. It has not worked out the way that I don't think anybody has imagined, especially the Badgers, especially Chris McIntosh, especially Luke Fickell. It has not worked out in the way that anybody imagined at this point. I don't think you're going to see an instant turnaround next year. But I'll ask RJ this tomorrow, but I'll throw it out to you, Badger fans, too. What, assuming they don't get into a bowl, they don't get elected, they're not, they could get in academic-wise and that if teams turn down bowl invitations and such. So let's just operate on assumption they're not going to go to a bowl game this year. What would have to what's the expectations, like the bare minimum that you would want to see from Luke Fickell and this Badger football team next year? Because let's face it, they've got an insanely tough schedule next year too. They're on the road against Oregon. They're on the road against Michigan. We'll see what Michigan's like next year. They got their fancy new quarterback. They play Ohio State at home. We'll see what Washington's going to be like. They got, Alabama again next year too. So I mean, this is a tough schedule next year for the Badgers. So factoring that in, yeah, this is their schedule: Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee, at Alabama, at Indiana now, at Michigan. Jeez, we're talking. Is there 4 straight road games? At Alabama, at Indiana, at Michigan, at Minnesota, at Oregon. Is that right? No, these are TBAs. Okay, dates are announced here. But those are road games. Yeah, at Alabama, at Indiana, at Michigan, at Minnesota, at Oregon. Then home against Illinois, home against Iowa, home against Maryland, home against Ohio State, home against Washington. So you're going to have a new offensive coordinator. No idea who the quarterback's going to be. Another tough schedule coming up. Is it 7 wins, 6 wins? For next year. I hate already talking about next year, but this is I think we all agree that this is a big-time offseason for Luke Fickell. But assuming that they're not going to win double-digit games next year, what has to happen next year for you to say, all right, Fickell deserves another season, or he deserves another year? Is it a 6-win mark and becoming bowl eligible? Is it just getting to a bowl game? Doesn't matter. Obviously, yes, we want to see improved play from the offense. We want to see improvement in different aspects of the game. We want to see that stuff. But what's got to be like those benchmarks? What's got to be those benchmarks for those for this Badger football team next year to say, all right, he deserves another year? Because I think it's fair to say Luke Fickell's entering next year on the hot seat. That if things look a lot like what they did this year, probably not going to be back. And then you're kind of wondering, where do you go from here? Because I would be shocked if Jimmy Leonhard says, yeah, I'll come back. He's human. I don't want to speak for him. Maybe he doesn't hold a grudge or anything like that. But I'd be a little bit, okay, you guys passed me up for this guy. Now it didn't work out. Now you want me to come back? No, thanks. Or maybe he doesn't think that way. I don't know. But what would have to be that benchmark? We'll have to talk with RJ about that tomorrow. But hey, at least Badger basketball, they're off to an undefeated start, 11-0. I said earlier, I'm not saying he's the best player in the country, but I'm just saying John Tonje is going to get, I think, some more talk about maybe Naismith Player of the Year, the way he's been playing so far this year for Wisconsin. And I get it. You look at some of the games, Arizona, obviously it was a big win and such. You got Marquette that's coming up this Saturday. That's going to be an awesome matchup between the two Wisconsin teams here, in-state rivalry. Don't overlook Michigan, the Michigan game tomorrow. Don't do that. Got Illinois coming up. Then you got Butler. So this is these next 4 games here for Wisconsin, kind of intriguing because, I mean, the program names. right? You know, obviously Michigan, you know Illinois because they're conference opponents, and you know Marquette, you know Butler. And you know Butler this year. I mean, they're not the Butler teams of Brad Stevens past and that sort of stuff. But you know, they're coming off of a big win where they beat ranked Mississippi State this past Friday. So kind of an interesting 4-game slate here for the Badgers: Michigan, Marquette, Illinois, Butler, before they take on Detroit Mercy, and then they're off Christmas break, and then they get into their full-on Big Ten portion of the schedule on January 3rd when they welcome Iowa to Madison. I still say I think the Badgers are a team that can win this conference. I think this is a conference. Yes, Purdue is going to get probably the most attention, a lot of the attention. But when you look at the conference overall for the Big Ten, and it's still kind of weird to say that Oregon and UCLA and those teams are a part of your Big Ten conference right now. But where you look at where things stand with the rest of those teams, I definitely think Wisconsin can be a team that's going to compete for the Big Ten regular season title. You know, Purdue's ranked 13th right now, 5-1 record. Wisconsin undefeated so far. I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing. And I like this team a lot. All right, let's do some picks and predicts, shall we? We've got Monday Night Football coming at you to wrap up Week 13. Week 13 is going to be in the books after tonight. Man, oh man. You had Buffalo just dominated San Francisco last night. Oof. I do feel bad. I do feel bad for no, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't feel bad for 49ers fans because 49ers have had the Packers number for the last few years, so no, I do not feel bad. Fantasy owners with McCaffrey, okay, I feel bad. But tonight's game, we got Cleveland taking on the Denver Broncos. Hey, maybe Sean Payton's a guy that could get some coaching of the year votes too, with how Denver's in a spot to get a playoff position. Who knows? All right, we'll wrap up things here this morning. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few short minutes. We'll have a new episode of the Man Cave podcast up and available wherever you listen to your podcasts, like Apple and Spotify, YouTube, all over the place. Don't forget, though, to check out, or don't forget to rate and review. If you could give us a 5-star rating, positive review, so others can find it. That helps the internet coding out there so people can find the podcast more. Also, don't forget, leave me a voicemail or shoot us a text to be featured on an upcoming episode of the Man Cave podcast. That phone number is in the podcast description. It is different from our show one. It's different from the Shoe Doctor bullpen line here. So that's the Man Cave hotline, if you will, is that number is in our podcast description. But I'll give it to you right now to add into your cellular phone devices. Okay, you ready? Here it is. 715-303-7364. Leave me a voicemail, comment, question, analysis. Text it over there. We'll feature it on an upcoming episode of the Man Cave podcast, brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. All right, let's do some picks and predicts, brought to you by the Elbow Room in Eau Claire. Go somewhere to warm up and watch some of the action, watch some of the games. Baseball's off season. Meant to say basketball. You got college hoops, NBA. Got obviously football. Bowl season's going to be coming up here for college football and such. So looking for somewhere to hang out and watch some of the action. Head on over to the Elbow Room and check it all out. Hang out with Garrett. Gotta maybe go over and purchase a beverage for Garrett and say maybe next year for his 49ers over there. Sorry, man. All right, let's do some picks. First, started off with Cleveland and Denver. I'm going to go Denver tonight, picking up their 8th win to improve to 8-5 on the season. So give me the Broncos. Give me the Broncos to pick up the victory tonight. To the NBA. We only got 4 games of NBA action tonight. We'll go Pelicans at Atlanta. What is going on with the Pelicans? Hey, Atlanta is actually favored by 9.5 in this game. 9.5 in this game. Well, I'll go with the Hawks just because the Pelicans got to show me something here. Miami at Boston. Boston favored by 10.5. Yeah, give me the Celtics. Brooklyn at Chicago. Give me Chicago. The Lakers visiting the T-Wolves. Minnesota is favored by 7.5. Give me the T-Wolves. I don't think they cover, though. I'm going to go with the under with that one. Let's also do – we have any – let me just double check here. No, not really. Okay. That's those are going to be our picks here. Those are your picks and predicts. Again, brought to you by our good friends from the Elbow Room, located right next to the Banbury Place in Eau Claire. We'll have Badger basketball to pick tomorrow and such, too. Plus, we'll have some volleyball. We'll do some volleyball picks with the Badgers getting the 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. All right, Packers will be back at practice today. As kind of not a normal week again because they play on Thursday. So the Packers yesterday was kind of like a Wednesday practice. Today is going to be like a Thursday practice. And then Tuesday, tomorrow will be like a Friday practice, their final practice leading up to their game going up against the Lions. Packers getting some good, healthy news yesterday with Romeo Doubs returning to practice. That's kind of the final stage to be cleared from concussion protocol. Matt LaFleur did note that he's still in it, but that's kind of the last step to go through practice and then get cleared by the docs there. Jair Alexander also practiced. Now, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to play. I would love him to play, but not if he's only going to play 10 snaps over there either. So hopefully we can get Jair Alexander for this game going up against the Lions in that passing attack of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Williams, Jared Goff, throwing Sam Laporta tight end over there. And, of course, their running attack of Gibbs and Montgomery. So would love everybody that would be available here for this game against Green Bay. It doesn't look like Edgerrin Cooper is going to be available, though. So, but hey, if Isaiah McDuffie plays like he did Thursday against the Dolphins, hey, now, come on now. Let's go. So, But we'll see what that practice report looks like a little bit later on today. Bucks will be back in action tomorrow as well. Bucks are playing really good as of late. They're coming off of a win against the Wizards back on Saturday, 124 to 114. So the Bucks have another group stage game against the Pistons tomorrow for the NBA Cup. But the Bucks are riding a 6-game winning streak right now after that awful start to the season. They're now up to 5th in the Eastern Conference, maybe approaching to where a lot of people thought, kind of a top 4 team in the East. You got Boston in there. A lot of expectations for the Knicks this year. You throw in, Philadelphia is not up there either, but Cleveland's playing incredibly well. So kind of approaching to where I think a lot of people thought the Bucks would be for the Eastern Conference this year. So they'll be back at it tomorrow, though. So speaking of tomorrow, we'll talk to RJ Cardinal. We'll get his thoughts on this Badger football program. Now what? Now that the regular season is in the books, where do we go from here? Obviously we know we got to get a new offensive coordinator. Will there be other moves on the horizon? Got some players that have already announced their intentions to enter the transfer portal. The big time offseason for Luke Fickell is officially underway, unless they happen to get a bowl game. We'll see. I still have my doubts on that, but I guess we'll see at this point. They're not, they didn't win the 6 games there, but they could get in academics and if teams turn down invites and such. So, but we'll talk all things Badgers, including Badger basketball, who are undefeated so far this season, 8-0 to begin the year. So we'll talk some Badger hoops with RJ coming at you tomorrow as well. Plus, we'll throw a little Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what's grinding your gears? Might be a perfect day for a Grind My Gears if you are a big-time Badger football fan. That could be a good one to grind your gears about over there. I'm sure a lot of people throwing out there. Weird, the NFL just posted a tweet saying who has been the coach of the year so far. Names we mentioned are up there. Dan Campbell, Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin are the ones getting the most mentions over here. Mike Tomlin and Dan Campbell are the ones that are getting the most. I think it's going to be between those two. I really do. I think it's going to be. So they only do one. They don't do one for each conference either. All right, let's wrap up by catching up on a couple of texts here. This one is from David. David is saying, what has stood out to me in these last couple games from the Packers has been time of possession. I know the Dolphins technically had more time possession in their final game, or their previous game, excuse me. But Green Bay, when they've gone down to, what is that supposed to? I think it's supposed to say when they've had those long drives. I think is what it's supposed to say there. But when Green Bay's had those long drives, they've come away with touchdowns. They're killing the clock and coming away with points, which is killer to opposing teams. We've got another one from Pat. Pat is saying, what has stood out to me from the Packers in their games recently has been Quay Walker. His play has been elevated the last couple of weeks. I hope this is something that can continue, but I still have my doubts whether he can be a consistently good player. We need to see it for more than just a couple of games. He's got a shot. He's got a shot to really prove himself coming up here with this game against Detroit, right? Detroit goes out there and tries to employ that shorter passing game like they did the last game, or really focus on running the football with Gibbs and Montgomery. Quay Walker's got a shot to really put his stamp, put his mark on this game. No question about it. Another texter here says, very disappointed in the Luke Fickell era so far. Willing to give his first year a pass because it was his first year with the program. But this year has just been awful. Didn't expect a lot of wins for this team this year, but the way these games have gone so far, I don't know if there's any more of it there, but the way these games have gone so far it has been really disappointing to watch this team perform this year. And we had one more Badger text. Let me go down here. This was from Eric. Eric is saying, I'm in your camp where I haven't experienced a lot of Badger seasons like we have witnessed with this Badger football team this year. A lot of questions heading into this offseason that I don't know if we'll know those answers to until the conclusion of next year. Interesting. All right. Appreciate the text this morning. Good stuff from everyone over there. So don't forget to hit us up with those throughout every morning. Again, tomorrow is a Grind My Gears. I know a couple of you have already sent in your Grind My Gears, so I will save those for tomorrow, but it is an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So we'll get to those coming at you tomorrow. All right. We'll hit those up. We're going to talk a little bit more about this matchup with the Lions tomorrow. We'll do our keys to victory, key matchups, and all that fun stuff coming at you. We'll probably do it on a Thursday since, we'll be on Thursday and the game's that night. So usually we do it on a Friday and then got a couple days, but we'll do that on Thursday. But we'll start to kind of take a look at this division matchup. And, Detroit and Green Bay for the longest time, kind of maybe wasn't the division matchup that was viewed as a rivalry per se. It's always been Bears and Vikings and such. I think it's fair to say, though, in the last couple of years, it's kind of moved up there, right? It's moved up a little bit. Is it of the nature of Vikings Bears? No. Lions have kind of had the Packers number, though, especially when it's gone to Lambeau Field. And anybody who's gone to a Packers game when the Lions been there, you've been seeing a lot of blue in the stadiums as of late here. But could this be another rivalry? Can this rivalry take another step coming up on Thursday here? Have a good rest of your day. DP Danitz are up next. Go get the shovels out. I heard the snow plow just a little bit ago, so go get the shovels out, clear off the driveways, sidewalks, and all that good stuff. All right, have a good day. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Talk to you then.